I do talk a lot about hiring on the show because finding talent's important. What is the state of play, and how might international recruiting factor in? Jonathan Romley joins me on this bonus episode of The Business of Tech. Thread has declared death to the ticket. Did you know tickets date back to the 1800s? And customers hate tickets. Thread uses an approach for connecting, communicating, and ultimately collaborating. Thread allows people to come together around a topic. They can discuss and make decisions. They can share and invite the right people. The future of service is collaborative. Supercharge your service experience by seamlessly integrating AI and automation to meet your customers where they are, in Teams, Slack, and desktops, not in tickets. With instant updates to and from ConnectWise, Autotask, and Halo PSA, keep all communication in one place, where it should be, with people. Decrease time to resolution 30% with chat-based support by visiting getthread.com/MSP Radio to declare death to the ticket. Well, Jonathan, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Dave. Great to be here.
So I'm going to just start right at the top. Give me your sense of the state of play as it relates to hiring right now.
State of play as it relates to hiring right now. Well, we hear a lot of companies, big and small, concerned about operational efficiency. And your business may or not be growing right now. You're in a good place if it's steady state. If you're doing the same numbers as last year, happy days. So what we hear a lot of businesses thinking about is, well, how can I deliver the same quality of service to my customers? How can I deliver the same quality of an experience for their end users, but at the same time, deal with rising salary costs and, well, frankly, companies that want to pay the same or less money. So I think that presents a big challenge.
Help me reconcile something then. So the unemployment rate in the U.S. is down. There's a labor shortage, yet employers also get waves of applications. Like, what's the dynamic that's going on there that causes that tension?
There's an idea out there right now that we may be up for a second wave of resignations, right? So, you've had this first wave, and then people that were quiet quitting, and that there may be a second great resignation, that a lot of people are open to new opportunities right now. And that in an economy that, we can have a economic discussion, is not for me, but, in an economy that the sentiment, that consumer sentiment is frankly negative, irrespective of what economists say about what's actually happening, in the American economy. I think that people had some fear, like, if I leave this job, what if I won't find another job? And so I'm going to stay here, but I'll be open to new opportunities. So what companies are seeing, unemployment pretty low, but a lot of people are open to consider new opportunities. But that doesn't mean that all of those people are qualified. There are tools out there. I've just seen a post about one the other day. I won't name it because it will wreak havoc on your HR process, your recruitment processes, but it uses, I don't know if it's using OpenAI or anyway, another large language model, to kind of ingest in your LinkedIn profile, and with a Chrome plugin, just auto apply to 750 jobs a day with, custom cover letters and, kind of adjustment of your CV to match the job description, everything to get you past whatever automated screening may or may not be going on within a business. So I think that it's getting a lot easier for people to apply, whether they're using a tool to do it or not. Many more people are open to jobs, but I think that the challenge in any time like this is that doesn't mean that everyone who would like to have a job is qualified for that job. So just because you have 1,000 applicants, I don't think that anybody does, but if you did, let's say 100, you still have to sort through who is qualified, who is not qualified, and how many of those applications were enhanced with AI, right? So you get there and it's a different person that's in the interview on the extreme. So I think that's many companies have just been at an event a couple of weeks ago in London, the biggest event for recruitment in Europe. And this was a really common theme of talent acquisition. It's a fancy word for recruitment. What recruitment leaders in companies big and small are thinking about, like, how do we frankly defend ourselves against what are really not fraudulent but embellished applications. Creates a lot more work for everybody, and in the end, well, I think that you still have to find that needle in a haystack, and that haystack's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I mean, I think if you're a company putting jobs online for people to apply to, I feel like that is a way that may go away just because it's becoming so easy to hack the system in a way.
Well, I mean, and you brought up the hacking. I'll go there first. We've actually found fraudulent actors working directly. I just recently covered on the show KnowBe4 having a North Korean apply through the system, get a remote job,
Heard that
and
episode.
take the job, right? So there's I mean, it goes all the way to fully fraudulent. And what's interesting, I kind of want to ask you about this because you've leaned into international recruiting as a way of expanding the talent pool. Talk to me about how you build a process that expands the talent pool, yet also protects you to try and get to the right people that are actually people. How do you do that?
So the first step here for us and that I'd recommend to anybody is don't post a job anywhere. So don't open that door that allows anybody to come in. This is kind of step one. When we work with companies at my company, Lundy, which is a global staffing and recruitment firm, we help companies identify where you can hire, and we can explain how you can do it yourself or we can do it for you. But none of our strategies that we would share and none of the strategies in my book involve posting jobs. So if you kind of lean back from the problem and say, okay, well, how do we protect ourselves against people kind of trying to break in a way? Shut the door, close it, throw a lock on it. That's it. We don't accept applications anymore. It sounds counterintuitive. I understand because look, there's an old saying. I don't know how old it is, but I mean, that the best people aren't looking for jobs. That's not necessarily true. That's a pretty broad stroke. But I think that as a company trying to hire, that you'd better try to find like 3 or 4 people that exactly fit your profile, and do that through being proactive and going out and finding talent. A lot of ways to find talent. Go out there and find them and engage, and then you get what you want. And it ends up being a lot less work than trying to sort through a pile of 1,000 resumes, even if it's a virtual one.
So, I mean, I like the premise. I like zigging where other people are zagging. But you're right. It's super counterintuitive. So give me a sense of talk to me a little bit about the skills and what you're actually doing to go out and find that talent that you're looking for proactively.
Well, the first thing that we do is we try to understand really well, in a deeper way, what are the characteristics that a hiring manager is looking for. Now, you might be the hiring manager listening to this, right? So you might be thinking, well, that's a little bit counterintuitive. I'm not going to, have that conversation with myself. But if there is in your business that separation between people that do the hiring and the people that need the people to work for them, well, this is an opportunity to really dig deep down into everything that's not in a job description. So one of the questions that we like to ask hiring managers or companies that are hiring is a little bit provocative, and it's, why would anybody want to work for you? Why would anybody want to work for you? Why would anybody want to work at your company? And we're not saying it to be provocative. We're not asking this question to be provocative. This is a question that we need to have answered in order to be able to engage people who may be a great fit for your company, but someone, whether it's you or a recruiter, are going to have to explain, why would anybody want to work here? And you might think you're great, and that's okay. We're all snowflakes and butterflies. We're all unique. But I mean, the reality is, right? It's not yourself that you're trying to convince. It's someone else. And I think that this is kind of just a funny example of things that we include, but we really try to understand what are the characteristics of this person, everything that's not in the job description, right? What's the team like? Who are they going to work with? What's their manager like? How do they approach the work as a team together? Because, a lot of times you get a team that's in the US and they're trying to hire like one person somewhere in Latin America. And you have to think about like, well, how is that going to work? Now, okay, Latin America is pretty close to the US in time zones, but somebody on the other side of the world, let's say, that they're in Poland, might not want to stay up. If you're like in Seattle, they might not want to stay up so late to have meetings with you. I mean, just little things like this. We try to understand, what is your team like, and how is someone from another part of the world? I mean, of course, we live in a global village and it's all kind of melting together, but how's it going to work with somebody on the other side of the world? How they're going to fit into the team? And what is we call it an employer value proposition. And basically what that means, just like a value proposition when you're trying to sell something, it's like, really simply, why would anybody want to work here? And these are the things that we try to extract. You can write them down yourself when you're thinking about doing this, if you're hiring, or you can get somebody to ask those questions for you. That's fine. But you really want to get down to that. Why would anybody want to work here? Using this and then going out and having conversations with people that are really a close fit to what you're looking for. How do you filter that down? Just kind of answer the second part of your question. Well, the answer is it depends. If you are, look, LinkedIn is great as a place to start. You can start on LinkedIn. Most recruiters, they start on LinkedIn. Doesn't matter if they work in your office or if you pay them money, they're starting on LinkedIn. If they're focused on the US or Western Europe. But there are still countries where when we look on LinkedIn, we see really high representation of technology talent. So like you're an MSP, okay, that's probably fine. But if you are trying to hire for other roles, let's say you were trying to build, your back office finance, you're trying to do finance, billing, accounting, things like this. You might not find those on LinkedIn. And then you've got to dig a little bit deeper. Where does talent live online in those countries? And there's a great resource. It's a free resource. It's called the Recruiting Brain Food Big List of Places to Post Jobs. You can just look it up. You could probably also ask Perplexity. But the Recruiting Brain Food Big List of Places to post jobs. 700-800. Now, don't post jobs there. Remember, we had that rule, don't post jobs. But you'll find the ability in most local job sites all over the world to have a database of resumes, or they're often called CVs outside of the United States. And you can usually get in there and search, and it'll kind of be like LinkedIn, but kind of not. And they're all look a little bit different, but you can get in there. And they all have some kind of paid access that you can get in and do that, and just do whatever your filtering is, of course, based on the typical Boolean search criteria, right? So if this, not that, and this. But when you get there, you can end up with a list, just like you would if you were trying to sell to a customer, right? We think about what's our buyer persona, what's our ICP, who can we sell stuff to? Who's the buyer within the organization? So same kind of thing with recruitment, right? So who can we sell this job to? Where are they? What do they care about? And how are we going to convince them to come on board, to join us? And then there's more that happens after you start talking to somebody, right? That you have to think about. think I answered your question. Did I answer your question, Dave?
You did, and you brought something up that I'm curious about, particularly because I want to get listeners' gears thinking on this. Where are those regions or markets that you think have really interesting untapped talent? That is sort of unique and different. We oftentimes default to several thoughts on this. Immediately, people will go, "Oh, India or the Philippines," or they'll go, maybe we can go to Europe. But where do you identify kind of interesting markets that are potentially less mined or thought of?
I think it happens really often. This happens really often. There are preconceptions about where talent comes from. So I used to live in Ukraine, in Kiev, before the war started, and I would have friends call me. I'm from California, right? So friends would call me from California, and they say, "Hey, help us find some engineers in Ukraine," because engineers come from Eastern Europe, which is not exactly true, but this is a perfect example. Or call centers come from the Philippines, right? Or all other outsourcing is in India, which is okay. You can take that approach, but there are other locations in the world where you may not be competing with some of the world's largest companies for talent, right? If you go to India, you're going to compete with the same companies that you do in the US for the same talent. And, that's why in India now, people are having a 50 or 100% increase when they change their job. Imagine if, you're on 10 grand a month in the US and you go to your next job and you have the same job title and the same responsibilities, you get 20, you jump to the next one, you get 30. I mean, it's a crazy talent market there. Don't recommend it for any small business, that's for sure. So where do we recommend? Well, the answer is it depends. We like to drill down into the responsibilities of a role and to understand, what is the tech stack? What are the core competencies? What kind of communication style? What kind of management style? But that being said, there are some places where companies are gravitating to now, which are not India and the Philippines. Latin America has been one, but look, Latin America, the prices are it's less than the US. If you're in the US, it's still a deal. If you're in Spain, it's 20% discount. It's like not compelling anymore when we talk to companies in Spain and they think about hiring in Latin America, because, in many countries in Latin America, people speak Spanish. They're surprised that American companies have saturated the market and have driven up the cost. So, Argentina is still an opportunity as long as there is kind of a currency risk, right? So if you don't know about what's going on in Argentina, look it up on the internet. But in any case, still an opportunity for hiring in Argentina, although there is quite a bit of competition and, Fortune 500 companies are there. If you would ask me this question and you were in Europe, and if you're in the US, you're willing to deal with time zone differences, the answer is Africa as a continent. The answer is in Africa as a continent. It's obviously Africa is not a country, just like Europe is not a country. But the answer lies in Africa, the continent. Now, depending on what your needs are, depending on what it is that you want to do, what it is that you're looking, what kind of skill set that you're looking to bring into the company, would actually depend on, where we might go on the African continent to source talent. And, not everywhere will be the answer, right? So not everywhere will, depending on what you need. You might need to look at there's another set of countries where people are going to now. One of them is Albania. So they're basically Eastern Europe. Well, those are the Balkan kind of, by the way, in this job that I have, you have to be really good at geography. So if you kind of look over to the East and go down in Europe, companies are inquiring a lot about Albania. That that's a pretty small country. So this is not a place where you could go and hire 1,000 people. I mean, you could, but at some point you're going to feel some resistance in the market. We also have some companies that are asking quite a lot about Georgia in terms of tech talent. And these are all places where, there's kind of a grain of political risk with your cost savings, right? So you kind of have to figure out how strong of a cocktail that you want to make for yourself when you do this. And results may vary. But these are some of the places, right? So, Georgia was one that people were asking quite a bit about. Again, not a very big country. Albania is, another alternative. But if we talk about population and scalability, then we always have to look, to Africa. Right now, many companies are building out. All the outsourcing companies at least in Europe, they've all started to build out operations in Egypt. A lot of people in Egypt. Salaries are okay. And this is an area that is no longer a secret. If you're in the US, it's a little bit tough. It's not like in the Philippines, 3 million people in the Philippines working overnight, right? 3 million people doing the night shift, for American companies in the Philippines. That is not a thing in most other countries. So if you go to Poland, you go to Egypt, say, hey, stay up all night. For what? No. Particularly when there's opportunities locally, right? If you come into a market as an employer from abroad and you say, we're going to do all the things, we're going to meet the local expectations in terms of compensation, in terms of benefits, we're going to open an entity or we're going to use a third party to employ people so that we basically have parity when an employee as a candidate for your company is comparing a job offer from a local company and from your company. They're, if they're the same, but yours they have to stay up overnight for, this is not so compelling in other parts of the world. So just something to think about. That's the challenge for many companies that we talk to in the US, right? If you're an American company and you're thinking about, how do I do this? And the answer is, well, in particular, if you're trying to have this 24/7 coverage for your customers, asking people to stay up at night in another part of the world might not be great. But if we look abroad for what might be a second or a third shift, if we talk about US time zones, then there starts to be an opportunity because then people can work during their regular business hours, which for the US happens to be in the middle of the night.
Jonathan Romley is one of the world's foremost experts on global talent management and the future of work. He's author of Winning the Global Talent War, How to Find the World's Best Employees and Thrive in a Competitive World. Jonathan is the founder of Lundy, a global talent firm specializing in innovative strategies for attracting, retaining, and developing top talent across borders. Jonathan, people are interested in getting in touch. What are the best way to get some resources or reach out?
Well, the first thing you can do, right? Buy the book. Yeah, that's on Amazon. So that's one option. The least expensive way of engaging. But if you want to reach out, we are on the web at hellolundy.com. That's hello, just like hello, and Lundy, like the French word for Monday, LUNDI.com.
Jonathan, thanks for joining me today. This has been great.
Thanks, Dave.
Looking to reach an audience of thousands of MSPs and IT service providers? Put your ad right here on the Business of Tech and be on the show that 64% of MSPs report having listened to. A recurring top 50 tech news podcast. There are affordable options for you to reach our audience, and we can support any budget. Podcast listeners are more engaged, have a higher level of brand retention, and are more willing to listen to ads here than any other avenues. Want to know more? There's information at mspradio.com/engage, including a button to book a time to talk. I'm looking forward to that discussion. The Business of Tech is written and produced by me, Dave Sobel, under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you like the content, please make sure to hit that like button and follow or subscribe. It's free and easy and the best way to support the show and help us grow. You can also check out our Patreon, where you can join the Business of Tech community at patreon.com/MSP Radio, or buy our Why Do We Care merch at businessof.tech. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on the show, visit mspradio.com/engage. Once again, thanks for listening to me, and I will talk to you again on our next episode of The Business of Tech.
Part of the MSP Radio Network.